Very excited to be back talking some racing with my good friend Barry here. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on That's What G Said podcast or on the That's What G Said YouTube channel on the YouTube. Barry, my friend, it's been a few weeks. It's funny because you and we did this probably 20, 25 weeks in a row, every Thursday, preview in a sequence. And then Breeders' Cup hits and the schedule is a little different. Then afterwards, I got a little bit sick. And now it was a few weeks, but now we're kind of back to normal. And then we'll get Thanksgiving next week and holidays and craziness again. So it's just it's that time of the year. But it's funny because most of the time, for those of you who maybe haven't watched or listened to this as much, you're going to have Barry here with me once, twice a week talking about whatever big races are happening. And this week, we'll be talking about Churchill Downs. They've had some really good cards over the last 3 weeks, a month or so, Barry.
Yeah, I really enjoy this meet
Me
that they
too.
have in the fall.
Especially when the turf course is working, right? And
Right.
like they were able to run on there a little bit. So
Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, the really good competitive fields, they're running for a lot of money, so you're going to get the best horses there. And, the meet's been great so far.
yeah, really enjoyed that. So Barry and I are going to talk about Saturday Churchill Downs races 7 through 11. There's a pick 5 sequence that has 2 graded stakes races in it, some big fields. We're going to look at the daily racing form past performances, see if we can lead you in the right direction a few times. Now, it's a very important time in the world of sales, shopping, because next week is Black Friday and we have a huge Black Friday sale that will lead you all the way through Monday, December the 2nd. So you can start using this coupon right now. Coupon code BF 2024 for the Black Friday 2024 sale. And you can just check out whatever the specific products that you use or whatever specific package that you want. Sometimes it's a little different, or you can just use that entire 20% off coupon there. Shop.drf.com. Check it all out. Barry, we have this week, Churchill Downs. Next week, Gulfstream Park opens up.
Yes, sir.
The championship meet, they're opening up a little earlier, so they'll have racing then. We'll be checking in a bunch with them. And probably for the next 3 or 4 months, it'll be a lot of big racing at Gulfstream, big racing at Santa Anita when they start up next month.
Yeah, so, it's going to be great.
That'll be kind
I'll
of
be down there. I'll be down there on the 7th of December.
Beautiful. Awesome. So we'll be touching base with you, and we'll definitely be talking Gulfstream for the big days with Barry. Okay, bud, let's see how we can make some money for the folks out there in this late pick 5 on Saturday. If you want to flip to the daily racing form past performances, we're going to look at race number 7, where this late pick 5 sequence starts. This is a challenging 2-year-old maiden special weight race. We have the sprinters going 6.5 furlongs in here. A couple of the horses that'll probably be your top tier. I thought there were 2 that will take the most amount of the money. The number 7, Sea Vista, really good runner-up effort in the debut. It was on a muddy track at Saratoga, but he ran second, and he lost to a nice horse named Uncaged that day, who got a really good trip. Just no knocks on the effort. I thought it was just very good, and this horse absolutely has any reason to step forward. Wouldn't shock me at all. The other one was the 10, Mo Quality, who had a similar type of effort. You and I remember that horse, Touchy. That was the Wesley Ward runner who we tried to beat a few times, who it was okay, and like was dropping out of the Saratoga special. It was just a heavy favorite and got a really perfect trip. And that was the horse that beat Mo Quality that day. So both of those 2 horses have only run once. In their debut, they ran second, and it was pretty good. There's a lot to build off. But what's a little scary with both of them is they didn't show early speed. That's what's a little worrisome. It's only one race. Even the fastest horses in the world can have one running line where they don't show speed. So we can't get a feel exactly for who they are yet. But if you're starting to look at horses like the 10 and maybe the 7 as the horses to beat, you just want to make sure that we haven't seen these horses show early speed. They could be closers. They may not be fast horses here. So just something to mention, at least with the 2 of them, who will be probably the shortest prices and to start with in here.
Number 7, Sea Vista, kind of fits the description, so to speak,
of the race. Yeah.
Yeah. Brad Cox does this quite a bit, especially with his better horses. That horse ran really good first time out, August 3rd at Saratoga in the mud, which is even stranger in this race because, probably the surface is going to be fast. And this horse has already shown some ability. I could only think that getting to a dry surface will probably benefit this horse. But if you venture out beyond Sea Vista, you got some options. I think there's a couple of first-time starters that caught my eye. The two Yinzer is one of them. They paid a lot of money for this horse. First off, paid $1 million for, but the work pattern has been pretty interesting on this horse. You know, if you're looking at the non-formulator past performances, you'll see the first work would be the May 26th work at Keeneland, which was probably one of the better works out of anybody in this field. And I think that goes a long way because they kind of brought it looks like on paper they brought this horse along. They, got up to 5 furlong works, which
Yep.
I love in races like this. And I think this horse is going to give a good account of himself.
Dem never won, but she showed a little bit of ability here. The horse that I would point out was Chasing Fireflies, who was a multiple winner, won the first two. Yeah, decent. Just showed a little precocity too, which is the key, kind of what you're looking for here, winning early on. Absolutely fits. I thought a player in this one. One that I wanted to mention, Barry, was the 5 Restless Renegade, who I just thought first time out going through the race was an okay start, but was wide. He's got a little bit outrun, was back to 9th, was 6 lengths off, was 3 deep, and moved and started to close, but ran into a little bit of traffic. This race is better than it looks on paper. If you just look at the running line, you wouldn't really notice anything. You watch it in the replay and you see it, and then I notice it a lot more with races where you look at a race like this and you're like, that horse got a pretty decent speed figure for not doing much, right? And you look at the race and you go, oh, you know what? He did have some trouble and the race came back strong. And those are the ones where I think you can take a little step forward there for these connections, obviously, who had a monster year. McPeak and Hernandez. The dam of this one was a horse named Restless Rider, who actually was a grade 1 winner. She won her debut. She won her second start. She at Churchill, a stakes race. She won the grade 1 Alcibiades. So I thought, pedigree-wise, this horse could be a little bit better, gets a little bit more distance here, like second time out after that traffic. The top 2 horses from that race, so that was Little Mugs, and that's the one.
Mugs.
They just like separated there in that field. And, you look at the both of them, I thought both of them ran really well, both really nice horses. So to me, they were both horses with experience also, versus a horse who was just making the career debut. That one's a positive that I'm going to throw in, Barry. Any others you mentioned? You talked about Yinzer.
Yeah.
The horse. Go ahead.
One more, the 11.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach's horse, Wise Decision. This one has another one with an interesting work pattern where the horse kind of looks like got a little quicker over time, and I think that might be okay here in a spot like this where it seems like some of these horses would probably be better suited for going longer, and having some quickness might not be the worst thing in the world. And I think Wise Decision, the coach puts a couple over every now and then, sort of in this kind of mold. This horse they paid $350,000 for, out of American Pharoah, Bell Hill. Not horribly bred by any means, but flying under the radar just enough to where you could get a price on this horse first time out, which, in this kind of race, it seems a little bit wide open. I wouldn't be opposed to giving that horse a real good shot here.
Oh, there we are. I got you for a sec. Okay. One others that I wanted to mention, Barry, was the horse to the right outside of yours, Putting Eagle. Another situation where you're looking at these races and he's coming out of races that are just grading pretty well. I actually played him off of the September 12th debut. I played him on November 1st because that September 12th was the type of race I like. Showed some kind of tactical speed, first time out of the box, not a bad effort, maybe something to build off. And then he ran into a horse who was basically lone speed, right? So he just didn't get the chance to build. in the race I was hoping for him to build. This is an interesting horse to me. Like, he's one of those, I'm not going to give up on him yet, because anybody in that race with Speed King would have been in trouble. This horse got the lead, went gate to wire, and earned an 82 Beyer speed figure and won by a couple lengths. There was just nothing anybody could do in that particular race. So I'm not going to be too hard on him for it. I still don't know how good he is. What I do like is I think he'll give you fair value if you're looking for like another fun pick 4, pick 5 horse, that kind of horse to throw in at a very fair price. So he could be one of my 3rd or 4th horses in this race to throw in. But I do think we agreed the 7 was kind of the starting horse, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
With. And
absolutely.
I'll probably play it like him and 1 or 2 of my other price horses that I like. I think along with him, if I were throwing in the pick 5, and I could definitely play a version where I singled him even.
Yeah. I mean, that's logical. I mean, it's hard because these maiden races to start a pick 5 create a dilemma where you have to essentially make decisions early, because you don't really want to spread too much here and kind of waste a lot of that capital later on. It's just a tough decision. And if you're going to play multiple tickets, you got to remember, you don't really want to. It just depends on how the rest of the
structure
kind of plays out. But you really don't want to be too top heavy unless you have really strong opinions later on, and vice versa. So you just have to be careful.
Not the easiest way to start. Barry mentions the 2 as a fun price play. I like the 5 Restless Renegade a little bit. We both think the 7 Sea Vista is the horse to beat. 10, no quality. I mean, we wouldn't be shocked to see a good effort there too. Barry also threw in the 11 as a kind of a fun play. I mentioned the 12 as the deeper horse. So those are kind of the order of horses that we liked. And also for all of you out there, I know a lot of the times we're not doing these live, and maybe we'll do a few of them live, because we used to do them early in the morning, the live streams, and we'd be able to interact a little more with you. If you're ever watching these or listening to them after, if you come in and comment, I'll get the notification. So if there's something that Barry or I said about a horse, or you had a question, or maybe we didn't get a chance to talk about a horse that you like and you wanted to ask, feel free, shoot me a message on there. I'll get the notification. I'll come back. And actually, I'm also trying to get as active as possible over on Blue Sky, which is one of the new social medias. It's a good energy over there right now, Barry. Like, right?
Yeah,
good
I'm over
good
there.
Vibes. Me too. Yeah. And it's very, the world isn't a perfect place where it's just everything is nice and rosy. But at the beginning of this social media place, it feels like a lot of people are just trying to help each other, which is nice.
It's crazy because it's like a reset of Twitter.
It is
almost.
It is. You're right. Without the trolling,
everybody's
like kind of like
introducing themselves. It's
right.
Crazy.
Hey, this is me. I was over there. I'm here. I'm trying not to fight with a bunch of people. I'm here to do some sports stuff and post some cool memes. Let's do this. You know what I mean? Like that's here we go.
Yeah,
so.
Everybody's experienced now in social media. So
you're right.
That's why this is a different kind of experience.
It's
and
like
it should be interesting.
It's like when you're going now, it's almost like when you're in college versus when you're in high school, like, and you're dating, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like now you've got a little bit of like who you are and who I can go out and like you dip your toe in the pond a little bit now. Okay. I can be this person, or you can, if you want, I'm going to change a little bit. I'm going to go in here with like a different profile. I'm going to go in here with like a different idea and a different mindset. So hopefully we can see all of you over on Blue Sky. Barry and I, same Twitter handle for you, right? On Blue Sky?
Yes. Yep.
Same thing for me too. It's me, Gino B. And honestly, what's really cool, it's very Twitter format. As soon as you get on it, it's going to remind you just of a lot of the features of Twitter.
Old Twitter, yeah.
Like old Twitter for like 10 years ago. So, and just informative, good stuff. So check us out over there. We'll be posting some of the videos and stuff there. Let's move to race number 8. There are 2 graded stakes races in the pick 5 sequence on Saturday at Churchill. And one of them is the grade 3 Chiluki, going 1 mile on the main track here. The horse to beat in this one, Barry, is the number 4, Too Sharp filly we've talked about before. She's very nice. She is a grade 3 placed filly. She lost to Brightwork in the Prioress, and that's one of her 2 defeats. The other defeat came in the debut. Now, for her, as a horse who's going to be a short price, she has to prove she can get a mile. She has not gone farther than 6.5 furlongs, and she probably wants to be either on the lead or really close to it. I don't know how far she wants to be sitting off the pace. So those are absolute concerns we could have with her in this spot, but it's a very good spot for her to do that, to try to stretch out, to show what she has. She's just going to be a short price. You're going to have to take a short price on a horse trying something and maybe dealing with, a couple other pace horses. But I don't think there's anyone that's really quite as fast as her. She seems like she's the dominant early speed in here.
That's the issue.
Yep. It's a good spot for her to try. It really is.
Blazing fast. Who's going to catch her or who's going to be with her early? That's really the question.
Yep.
And, Pagali can do it.
Yep.
She's the outside horse
versatile,
can do it. And Fancy could also get into the mix. And I'm hoping that happens, obviously for price. But that would open up this race so much more if somebody can get in front of her.
Even the 7. Can the 7 coming out of these, because she's got some versatility to her. She comes out of some quick sprints most recently. Can she just be exiting faster races, be close up, and sitting really close, and maybe just make life a little difficult for Too Sharp? Like I don't think it's that easy for Too Sharp. I don't want to think it is, but it really does look like a great spot on paper for her.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I know you have questions about the distance when they haven't done it, but if you really think about it, 6.5 to a mile isn't that big of a stretch out.
Turn like this too.
Right. It really takes a special sort of kind of power to not be able to stretch out to a mile as a racehorse. You know what I mean? So usually in these kind of situations, I assume the horse can get the distance. And then you just bring the buyer points down a little bit and be like, all right, well, this is probably where this horse is going to be, kind of roughly make a prediction. With that being said, this horse buyer numbers, the last 2 races are higher than anybody else in the field.
Yep.
Just being a daily racing form scholar and reading Dave Litfin's book back in the day, he talks about this situation. I've talked about it on, when we're doing Stable Duel. And again, these situations come up every now and again where a horse has the last 2 races, and you can even go 3 with this horse.
Yep.
The last 3 races, the buyer number is bigger than anyone else's last 3 races.
There's only like 2 races in the whole field that are kind of comparable.
Right.
To any of them.
It's hard to get around horses like that.
I know. And that's what's really, really difficult. The way I kind of looked at this, Barry, was she's the horse to beat. I'm not trying to completely dismiss her. I think if she does get beat, it's because it's still a little bit farther than what she wanted. She probably had to go too fast early, and I'd be looking for one of the horses who could take advantage. I would use the 6 with her. That was the horse who I liked. Yeah. I thought Positano Sunset just kind of got caught up on the front end last time out, and I don't think that's where she wants to be. She was the heavy favorite. She still should have won that race. She had the lead easy, but that's not really her trip. I feel like she'll turn back to a mile, and the 4 is going to go, so she's going to be sitting behind that one with the target. And that's kind of how I'm playing that race, playing the race. Just either maybe the 4 is good enough to run away and hide. Maybe the 6 can be a horse who's sitting 3rd or 4th and take advantage if the 4 isn't good enough and isn't fast enough.
Trust me, I bet Positano Sunset the last time. I know you see the price there, 85 cents on the dollar, but I keyed that horse in a huge pick 3
with other prices around. So it's not like you're chalking, here.
Yeah. No, it paid really well. And the second choice won that race, Bruin Boyne, which my buddy Wolfie gave out actually. But I digress. 2 things have to happen in order for Too Sharp to lose this race. Not being able to get the distance and get cooked up front. I think if one of those things happen,
she still could win.
But if
it's almost like
happen,
1.5 need to happen, kind of, right?
Exactly.
Like the token pressure and not really be able to get more than the 7. So I think if you're going to do that, make sure you're also getting rewarded a little bit. I don't know if Positano Sunset will be that big, but like 6 to 1, 3rd or 4th choice in the race, I'd be okay using along with Too Sharp. But I do think this is the horse to beat, hands down. And you talked about the 2. I think I've said Peagle with the deuce before, who's just kind of sharp right now. Moved a little early last time, going a mile and a 16th. Slight cutback will only help. Super versatile. So you just never runs a bad race. And these are the types of horses you and I like to bet because they're better than their speed figures are.
Mm-hmm.
They're tougher than that because we know the horses that she's just been finishing in front of taxed. She's been finishing in front of some of these same horses. We know who she's been facing. So she's certainly competitive enough in a race like this. It just comes down to trip. And it really comes down to, like you said, you start with Too Sharp. If she shows up with a good performance and take to a mile, I don't think there's much that a lot of the others can do.
Yeah. I do that quite a bit is I ask those kind of questions like, or those scenarios like I just outlined where two things have to happen. Same thing with Pigalle. Same thing with Pigalle, is that horse fast enough? I mean, that's really where the gamble is. If you think that horse has enough speed, to step up to this level and make some noise, which on paper, it looks like she can certainly do that. I wouldn't put her out of the equation, but my reservation is her running style.
Yeah.
She'd have to be tons the best or quite quick early to get in front of Too Sharp. But for my purposes, I want her to go heads up with that horse.
I thought this next race, the 9th race, which is a 6 furlong first level allowance, this race was really strong for the level because I thought there were 3 or 4 horses that were like, oh, this horse would be a favorite normally in this type of race. Like the 3, Attaché, who was a good third last time out in a strong race. Look at this horse's recent form. Races at this level have been very good at Churchill and at Ellis. Really nice speed figures. Overall, like has speed, can sit just off the pace. Real major player. But you also have a horse like the number 9, Banned for Life, who lost to a really nice horse named Montalcino, who you and I talked about on October the 4th over at Keeneland. That horse absolutely freaked that day. And Banned for Life, the form overall is pretty strong. Just a couple.
I like that horse.
I know, like a couple sloppy races. And the 12 is kind of similar, or the 11, excuse me.
11, yeah.
Who is just strong, kind of lightly raced with upside, versatile, tactical. You feel like these horses have a ceiling. Like they feel like these are all stakes horses just below stakes races that are just waiting for a breakout. It's a really fun race because you have a couple horses that are none of these would shock me to see them run well, and they probably won't be separated all that much by price. But talk to us a little about the 9, Banned for Life, who you said you like in here.
Yeah, I think this horse is really sitting on a good race. I mean, if you go through this horse's progression, you see the kind of, I don't want to say freakish, but better than average start, February 17th this year. Ran a really good race and run steady good races, just wasn't winning, but losing to really good competition. You see Batten Down in there, Gun Party, Star of Wonder's a nice horse. Just a Freakin' Here is a nice horse. Hurricane Nelson, he beat back at Saratoga.
Yep.
So this horse has been keeping really, really good company in the maiden ranks. And I can't say that all these other horses did that. All these other horses haven't been. Agoo, maybe. There's some horses in there that are pretty.
You know what? With this horse to the outside, it reminds me of in Billy Madison, or like when Adam Sandler says "goo," just because Milo likes to play with like the goo and the slime and stuff. So I would always joke, "Goo, Happy Gilmore, my goo."
Yeah, I mean, but I think Agoo isn't as quick as Banned for Life. And then you add Luis Saez, and you know what kind of trip this horse is going to get. The Luis Saez trip, going to stick right to that front runner and just ease past in the stretch and just keep going.
Yep.
And I think this is the perfect opportunity. I like the way the horse handled the rising class last time, and I think this horse is really, really going to give a good effort.
So strong race. Yeah. The 11, who I mentioned to Goo a little bit, who has a stretch of 3 bad races. And if you eliminate that, everything else is really good. Actually beat Mystic Dan last year. You could see was in races with just steel and really nice stakes horses. Then he just tails off form for 3 consecutive races, one before a layoff, one coming back, which is in the slop, and then one before going to the bench a bit. Shows back up, gets a little class relief. They just put him on the front end in a race where he's probably classier than most of that field. It's a small field, and it perks him back up. And then he runs a bang-up race last time out, finishing second behind world record. So he kind of bounced back into form. It's nothing wrong with the 9's overall body of work at all. And then I was kind of running through the races that the 3 has who are really strong. Those are the top tier horses, Barry. I'll throw in a price or two that I thought was fun. The 5, Risk It, who, look at his early form. So he wins his debut, and then he's thrown right into the mix he's in with Honor Marie. He's in with Track Phantom. He's in against really nice graded stakes company, and then takes him a while to kind of get back out of the stakes company. And once he drops out, he starts to perk back up a little bit. Even in his last few, he faced horses like Henro, who's a legitimate horse. We've talked about Henro a few times. He's one of these horses where he's gotten bet so often throughout his career, and there's more to him. He actually finally might be a playable price in here.
I had one reservation with this horse, Risk It. Now, you see this horse early in the career, right? Wins early, first time out, then goes into Iroquois and loses to West Saratoga. Now, from that point on is very interesting to me because we've seen what West Saratoga has done since. Nothing. I mean, no sugarcoating that. Risk It has been close, but I'm not sure if I can trust that horse in this race because of how this horse kind of peaked early and really hasn't done much. I mean, he has been facing some tough competition, especially over at Oaklawn. Like that meet from like February to April is probably as tough as you'll find anywhere, including Saratoga and Del Mar and all that. So sometimes it takes a little bit for horses to come out of that competition and kind of run competitively. You see how a lot of horses get that time off after that Oaklawn meet. And I think that this plays into it. So you could get a fresh Risk It in this race that's going to be akin to those first 2 starts. And that's something it's just looking at this whole body of work that this horse has and has the potential to be very good in this spot. I would go myself personally to the 7 Rowdy Riot. I think that horse is probably one of the better closers in this race. And if this race by chance heats up, and it could,
that's
Rowdy Riot might be the beneficiary.
The other that I thought was fun to mention was the 8 Wind Rider, whose debut was at Indy. Then in his second start, he beat Hall of Fame. Remember the very highly regarded Hall of Fame, and Wind Rider was like 38-1 that day. And it was pretty impressive because he breaks right on top. He's sitting second just behind the leader and not even a length off. He's kind of in a tight spot. He waits, he gets an opening, and he just kind of just holds the position really well down inside. Lasix for the first time. Also beat a horse named Dymatic, who finished second in the West Virginia Derby. And this barn has actually been pretty good off a long layoff, maybe an underneath type horse you could throw in because we know he's got ability, but he missed so much time. It's a full year off for him.
Yeah. Those things are so hard to gauge nowadays. Like, let's say, 15, 20 years ago, layoffs weren't as, neutral as they are now.
Yes.
Before it was viewed more of a negative.
Always a negative.
Right. Same thing with front bandages. That changed too. So, I mean, this is stuff that as horse players, you got to pay attention to when things change because you have to adjust your handicapping and your style, maybe what you bet and how you bet in order to combat some of those curveballs that are getting thrown at you all the time.
Here's a look at race number 9 on Saturday at Churchill Downs as we keep rolling through this pick 5 sequence. We move to the second of the 2 graded stakes races in the pick 5. This one is the grade 3 Commonwealth. The horse that you and I have kind of been chased a few times was Lanyos, right? The number 7, who's actually going to get a rider change for the first time. And it's nothing I'm pointing out to be against Christian Torres, who does a fine job, but Pratt would probably be my number one rider if I was going to put on any horse, especially trying to get a change or an upgrade. So for a
Yeah,
horse
because
who,
it seems like this horse needs to be ridden a certain way to get to the wire first.
yep, like perfectly
Right.
timed, make the right move. And I
Exactly.
feel like he could be a very nice fit, or at least I'm definitely going to use him with, he's a pick 4, pick 5 horse for me because of that.
Yeah, I mean, in the company he's been facing, he's been, you know, getting, into battles with a lot of good horses. And funny enough, not even getting bet every time. He's been running excellent. I mean, he's only really had one quote unquote bad race, and that was going a mile and 5/16 at Kentucky Downs, where a lot of horses would do that in that same scenario, and didn't run all that bad. Just, was out of his sorts in that kind of race. Um, I like the fact that he dropped back into a mile in the Bryan Station, and now this is the time he's going to have his legs for him for this race, I think.
So I feel like he's a must use in all of the
Absolutely.
exotics. There's not a whole lot of speed in here. I just don't know how to gauge my boy Prince in a field like this. He was kind of a runoff last time out, went way too fast. Certainly capable with big races. Is he someone that you would want to throw in a pick 5?
Um, I don't think so. Funny enough, I just don't think that horse can do it. Um, I do think the 9 though is very interesting, and I think that horse might want to get involved early because of the pace.
Be more forward.
Yeah. I, if I was the trainer or the connections for that horse, I'd tell him to go. Just go, get to the lead, and then work your magic, Tyler. Because this horse is probably needs a little different kind of thing going on because of the fact that this horse came from overseas. I'm sure there's a little bit of, what are we going to do with this horse? They run in the Franklin Simpson. The horse didn't run bad, but didn't run excellent. Got a good buyer number, but ran okay. Then kind of did the same thing in the Bryan Station. And I think it's the running style, personally. Um, if they force the issue, I think this horse might be engaged and involved, and might end up being pretty good on the front end. But who knows? This is a tough race, despite it being, kind of straightforward, at least from the.
Barry, will you do me one favor and just hold on
Sure.
for like 1 second? I'm going to pause this for 2 seconds. I just got to run in the other room real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we had a little bit of a pause there, but Barry, we're talking about Evade and how the place for this horse in this race is probably closer to the front end, right?
I would
Being
I would
more
hope
forward.
so. I
Yeah.
would hope so. I
Um,
mean, it only makes sense because of the speed or the pace scenario. There's really not much, and I would think, at least on paper, if the connections are looking at this, like, yeah, I think we can get in front of that horse. So
so I liked Hershey in the last 2 times that he ran, and he's super honest. You kind of know what you're going to get from him. The problem I have is in that race last time out, he got such a perfect trip, loomed up, and
couldn't
then
finish.
the last 2 just ran him down. I mean, he's not going to get as perfect of a trip. That doesn't mean he can't win this race or any other race, but it's so hard for me at a short price looking at him going, oh man, that was the one that I felt like he was probably going to win. He's really close to a fast pace, but I kind of think the 3 is the horse to beat. Dashman. And maybe this is a little bit because I played him in his last start too, and he just had a brutal trip. Like if you watch him, he just kind of got shuffled back. It wasn't great. I was expecting him to be more forward in a race where there wasn't all that much speed. That's what I'd like to see with Saez aboard from him. Just get a little, like hold the position a little bit better. I think the Carson's run deterministic form is just probably better than a lot of this form. So I'm probably 3-7, and then those are probably my 2. It sounds like you're a little more 7-9.
Yes, definitely 7-9. And you kind of have to use the 8,
Yeah.
because this horse could fall into the best trip ever and
Yeah.
kind of win by accident.
Just by default, that's what he does.
Right.
That's what the tactical style he has does. Is it just puts him into every race to where a few of them, it's like, oh, yep, he was right there. He got the trip, he got the benefit, and he's just gonna fall right into it.
Yeah, it's funny with Dashman. It's a tough read because this horse was running longer and now is cutting back to a mile and a
So
16th.
where's Where does
Where
he
is he going to
sit?
fall? Right. Pace wise, are they going to force it, or are they just going to let him just kind of run out of there and place himself? It's going to be interesting. But I really like the 7 quite a bit. He should get the run of it. He's been facing better and finishing races better. Just hadn't been winning against that competition. This is a little bit different, but I like the 7 a little bit here.
Let's get to race number 11 and close out this Saturday Churchill Downs Pick 5 sequence. So next week, if you're down, let's plan on maybe recording a little early because we can talk about the Thursday Gulfstream card.
Sure.
If that
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
good.
It's done the 7th. Not
Yeah.
next week. Is the week
Yeah.
after that.
So the week after is when they really start the championship stuff like that. So we'll get a little early recording next week because people will be listening for Thanksgiving, watching games and stuff like that.
Including us.
So yeah, including everybody. Exactly. Race number 11. We're alive heading into the 11th race. We're trying to close out the pick 5 sequence here. Barry, who do you want to start with?
I only like 2 horses in this race. Funny enough, just went through everybody. The 5 Calamity and the 6 Madeline's Promise. Obviously, Madeline's Promise is really on my radar. A, because of the morning light price. Secondly, I went through this horse's pedigree, and all the horses siblings from the dam side all improved and or won when they stretched these horses out. Yeah. And it seems like it's just natural with these horses. When they stretch them out, they run. It's almost uncanny.
It's funny the way that we were looking at this race. You had like the 2 that you were looking at that you liked. They were kind of like a price and a sort of obvious horse with Madeline's Promise, and then the Brad Cox first time starter with Calamity. I kind of had another 2 in the same sort of way. I had the 7 and the 8, the 2 McPeak horses, where Golden Gamble, the more obvious one, who I just thought that debut going long. This course got parked 6 wide going into the turn and then moved inside, was in a little bit of traffic, was traveling pretty well, and then just kind of flattened out a bit late. There was just a lot happening in the race. I thought still was pretty good. The 8 Bottomless Mimosa, I thought was very interesting in that race, like really nice energy on October 27th late there. So those would be my kind of obvious and my kind of price. So we got them all right in a row for you folks.
Yeah,
with the
5,
5,
6,
7,
7,
8. Boom, right in a row.
With the 8, I believe I saw a lot of turf. That's why I kind of shied away. But the horse does have a little bit of kick. And if this race kind of falls apart and it gets hot, which it certainly can, these maiden races, especially going 2 turns early like this, it does get hot. That one might not be a bad play, but
it's funny too.
tough.
The riders flip flopped on these 2 for McPeak, right?
It's strange, yeah.
Where you have Hernandez, who was aboard this horse, goes to Golden Gamble. Le Peru comes to Bottomless Mimosa when he was aboard Golden Gamble. The debut runner, Stunner, Stone Cold, actually came back and won the Tempted next time out and earned an 89 buyer speed figure.
And doing so, the way that horse won.
Yeah, and in the debut, lost to that really nice horse named Senza Parole, who didn't get to come back and run in the second start because she got hurt.
Yep.
And was like earned the monster speed figure. So it's a challenging sequence because what I like about it is it's quality. These are nice horses. They're all either stakes or like upper maiden, upper allowance horses, like strong horses, some fun replays and backtracks to take a look at. And hopefully we steered. Yeah, go ahead.
This card rivals a Keeneland card.
It's really good.
It
is. Or a Saratoga card,
yeah.
Right? One like that. Like it's that good. It feels like a Saturday Gulfstream card, later, like absolutely. We're talking about one of those that would be in like January where you just got those strong maiden and strong allowance races that feel like stakes races.
Yep, exactly.
So that's what we want as handicappers and as gamblers. You gave him a little bit of a plug earlier on. Tell everybody else about the Notorious OTB podcast with the Wolf of Oaklawn, Chase Sessoms, and anything else that you want to mention.
Yep, been hanging around and co-hosting with Chase over at the Notorious OTB. We have fun with it. There's a lot of comedy going on. We crack jokes on each other and everything else we can think of in our heads. But make some picks and do a little things with $100 budget, bailouts and stuff like that. So we try to have fun with a little different spin on it than the traditional straightforward picks kind of show you see.
Have fun, some memes, some gifts, some music, a little bit of everything, and mainly value. Trying to play things on a small budget, right? We're not talking about people who are sitting here going, hey, go bet a bunch of money on the heavy favorite. It's the opposite. We're trying to really find horses that could absolutely help you. So always love chatting with you guys and looking forward to chatting more races with you, man. We're going to have a fun couple months starting up soon, the holidays, and then we'll get into those are your and my home base, Gulfstream and Santa Anita.
That's what
so
I'm
for
saying,
the two of
man.
us, we get a few months, where we get rolling and we get to kind of lock in on the places that we feel comfortable with. It's when we're at our best some of the times, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it almost feels like it's like I'm home. You know, when
exactly.
racing shifts down here.
Yep.
Yeah, it feels good. But hopefully we get some long shots and get this winter money.
Good luck, everyone. Don't forget about the Black Friday sale, 20% off. Use the coupon code there, BF2024. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on That's What G Said YouTube. And if you're not, if you're on the podcast, make sure you subscribe there. Share it all around. Check us out on Blue Sky. We'll be back next week talking a lot more racing with the man, Barry Spears, right here on That's What G Said.